Picture this. You're sitting at a family gathering, excited to catch up with everyone, but instead of laughter and joy, the air feels heavy. Your grandmother is retelling the same story for the 5th time tonight. Your grandfather is grumbling about how everything was better in the good old days. The kids are staring at their phones, pretending not to listen while you force a polite smile. Sound familiar? Here's the truth. Aging is a privilege, but it comes with certain habits that, without realizing it, can push loved ones further and further away. These habits aren't intentional. In fact, most older adults don't even notice them. But they matter, because relationships in later years are just as vital as health, stability, or security. Today, we're uncovering 12 common behaviors in old age that make others uncomfortable. This is not about shaming, but about shining light on what often goes unsaid. If you've ever wondered why visits get shorter, why calls come less often, or why conversations feel strained, this might be the missing piece. And stick around until the end, because I'll also share small, practical ways to replace these habits with ones that bring people closer, not push them away. Let's begin. Behavior 1. Oversharing personal details. As we age, one of the most common habits that creeps in, often without notice, is oversharing. Older adults sometimes describe every ache, every pain, every doctor's visit, or even very private family matters in vivid detail. Now, honesty itself isn't the problem. The real challenge comes when boundaries blur. Imagine this. You're standing in line at the grocery store with your elderly neighbor, and suddenly they're describing their most recent surgery in graphic detail to the cashier. Or perhaps your grandmother brings up deeply personal topics at the dinner table, topics the younger generation would rather not hear while eating. Why does this happen? Psychologists point to a few reasons. Loss of social filters. As the brain ages, the part responsible for regulating what we say weakens. Need for connection. Sometimes oversharing is really just a cry for intimacy, for someone to listen. Comfort with vulnerability. Seniors often think, I've lived this long, why hide anything now? But here's the hidden consequence. Younger people may start avoiding conversations, not out of disrespect, but simply because they don't know how to handle the discomfort. So what's the solution? Awareness. Instead of oversharing, seniors can choose to tell stories that uplift, inspire, or teach. By sharing wisdom rather than medical charts, they can connect instead of repel. Behavior 2. Repeating the same stories. Let's be honest. Every family has that one beloved elder who tells the same stories over and over. The fishing trip from 1968. The tale about walking 10 miles to school. The wedding story that starts exactly the same every time. At first, it's charming. It's tradition. It's history. But when repetition happens every visit, it shifts from nostalgic to draining. Why does this happen so often? Memory decline. Short-term memory weakens, making it hard to recall what was already said. Comfort in routine. Familiar stories give seniors a sense of identity and stability. Need to be heard. Sometimes, repeating a story is really about making sure their experiences are valued. Now, here's the conflict. Younger listeners may feel invisible, like their own stories don't matter. They smile politely, but inside they're tuning out. One gentle solution? Acknowledge the story, then build on it. For example, Grandpa, you've told us about your fishing trip before, but what happened after that? Did you go again? This way, the elder feels heard, but the conversation moves forward instead of circling endlessly. Behavior 3. Criticizing the younger generation. Back in my day, kids had respect. No one works hard anymore. This generation is too soft. Sound familiar? It's one of the oldest tensions in history. The belief that the younger generation is failing compared to the past. But constant criticism, whether about clothing, work ethic, or even technology use, creates walls instead of bridges. Why does it happen? Cultural gap. Seniors grew up with entirely different values and challenges. Loss of control. Criticizing others can sometimes be a way to cope with feeling powerless in a rapidly changing world. Unrealized nostalgia. The past always feels better in memory, making the present seem worse. But here's the hidden cost. Constant criticism makes younger people defensive. Instead of seeing elders as sources of wisdom, they may start to see them as judgmental or out of touch. What's the alternative? Curiosity. Instead of saying, kids these days don't know how to work hard, an elder might ask, how does your job compare when I was your age? This invites conversation, not conflict. Behavior 4, hoarding and refusing to let go. We all hold on to things for emotional reasons. A concert ticket, a childhood toy, a letter from an old friend. But as some people age, holding on becomes hoarding. Stacks of newspapers, closets bursting with clothes from decades ago, entire rooms filled with unused belongings. For seniors, these objects often represent security, identity, and memory. Throwing them away feels like erasing part of their life. But for family members, walking into a cluttered home feels overwhelming, suffocating, even unsafe. This habit often pushes people away in 2 ways. Loved ones stop visiting because the home feels chaotic. Conversations about clutter lead to arguments instead of connection. Here's the key insight. Hoarding isn't really about objects. It's about fear. Fear of loss. Fear of emptiness. Fear of being forgotten. A kinder solution is gradual. Instead of saying, you need to throw all this away, families can try. Let's pick 3 things that mean the most to you and make a special place for them. Over time, this shifts the focus from loss to preservation. Behavior 5, being overly negative or complaining constantly. Negativity has a way of filling a room like smoke. It lingers. It chokes. And once it's there, people look for the nearest exit. Many older adults fall into the habit of constant complaining about health, about neighbors, about the government, about how the world is going downhill. Some of it is valid frustration. Aging brings real struggles. But when every interaction is drenched in negativity, others start to pull away. Why does this happen? Declining health. Chronic pain or illness can make negativity feel unavoidable. Shrinking social circle. As friends pass away, loneliness can make complaint a default way of expressing emotion. Psychological reinforcement. The more we focus on the bad, the more the brain trains itself to see only the bad. Now, here's the ripple effect. Loved ones may feel guilty for not visiting, but also drained when they do. Conversations turn into emotional labor, and eventually silence replaces connection. So what's a shift? Gratitude. Studies show that seniors who practice daily gratitude, even for the smallest things, not only improve their mood, but also attract more warmth from others. Instead of saying, the world is terrible these days, imagine saying, I'm so glad I can still talk to you about it. The difference is night and day. Behavior 6, interrupting or dominating conversations. Another subtle but powerful habit that can push people away is interrupting or dominating every conversation. You've probably seen it. A family gathering where one elder speaks 80% of the time, jumping in before others can finish, steering every topic back to their own experiences. The intention isn't malicious. Often it comes from enthusiasm or from a genuine fear of being forgotten. But to younger listeners, it feels like their voices don't matter. Why is this so common in old age? Hearing decline. Mishearing or misunderstanding prompt seniors to jump in quickly before losing track. Fear of silence. Some older adults feel uncomfortable when there's a pause, so they fill it. Identity anchoring. Talking reinforces their sense of relevance in a world that often sidelines them. The problem is Conversations stop being shared experiences and turn into monologues. And younger people, especially teens and young adults, start pulling away, not because they don't love their elders, but because they don't feel heard. The fix? Active listening. Instead of thinking, what can I say next? Elders can practice pausing and asking questions. And how did that make you feel? Or, tell me more about your work. When older adults listen as much as they speak, connection deepens instead of phrase. Behavior 7. Refusing to adapt to new technology. Technology is no longer optional. It's the language of modern connection. From video calls to group chats, from online shopping to digital banking. But one of the most common frustrations across generations is when seniors flat out refuse to engage with it. Picture this. A grandparent who won't answer a text message because phones are too complicated. Or a parent who misses out on family photos shared on social media because they don't trust the internet. What starts as stubbornness can quickly become isolation. Why does this resistance happen? Fear failure. Many seniors worry about breaking the device or making mistakes. Overwhelm. The pace of technology feels relentless, with new apps and gadgets appearing constantly. Distrust. Scams and privacy issues make older adults feel unsafe. But here's the irony. Refusing technology doesn't preserve independence. It destroys it. Seniors who adapt to even basic tools like video calls often report less loneliness and stronger family bonds. The solution isn't forcing, but encouraging. Instead of saying, you have to learn this, families can say, this is how we can stay closer together. And often, once the emotional barrier is gone, the practical skills come surprisingly fast. Behavior 8. Being overly stubborn about routines. Routines can be comforting. Having breakfast at the same time every day, sitting in the same chair, watching the same show every evening. These habits bring stability. But when routine hardens into rigidity, it can start to alienate loved ones. Imagine visiting your grandfather and suggesting a family outing, only to hear, no, I have to watch my program at 6 o'clock. Or inviting your parents to dinner, but they refuse because they only eat at home. Over time, these refusals feel less like boundaries and more like walls. Why does this happen with age? Loss of control. Sticking to routine gives seniors a sense of order in a world that feels unpredictable. Cognitive decline. Familiar patterns reduce stress when memory or decision-making becomes harder. Comfort zone dependence. The older we get, the less we crave novelty and the more we fear disruption. The trouble is, this rigidity often cuts off opportunities for joy. Families stop inviting. Grandchildren stop asking. And slowly, isolation deepens. The key is balance. Routine can stay, but with flexibility. Saying yes to small changes, like trying a new cafe or adjusting meal times for a special event, signals openness. And in return, loved ones feel valued, not shut out. Behavior 9, making insensitive jokes. Humor can be a beautiful bridge between generations. But sometimes, the jokes older adults make are less about connection and more about discomfort. Phrases like, you're getting fat, aren't you? When are you getting married? You're not getting any younger. Or worse, jokes about race, gender, or identity that were once socially acceptable but are now deeply offensive. Why does this happen? Cultural shifts. What was normal 40 years ago may now be inappropriate. Generational blind spots. Some elders may not realize how words have changed in meaning. Defensiveness. Humor can mask insecurity or discomfort with change. The harm is subtle but real. Younger family members often laugh awkwardly, but inside they feel hurt or distanced. Instead of bonding, the joke builds walls. The shift isn't about silencing humor. It's about redirecting it. Light-hearted jokes about shared experiences, or humor that celebrates rather than criticizes, bring warmth instead of sting. After all, laughter should bring people closer, not drive them apart. Behavior 10. Ignoring personal hygiene. This is one of the most delicate but important topics. Personal hygiene. As people age, physical decline can make it harder to bathe regularly, brush teeth, or maintain fresh clothing. Sometimes it's arthritis, making it painful to shower. Sometimes it's depression, reducing motivation. And sometimes it's simply a loss of awareness. But here's the reality. Poor hygiene pushes people away faster than almost anything else. Family members might shorten visits. Friends may stop coming over, and caregivers may feel burned out. It's not just about smell or appearance. It's about dignity. And dignity matters at every age. The solution is not shaming, but support. Loved ones can gently say, "Can I help you set up a shower routine?" Or, "Let's shop for some comfortable new clothes together." Small aids, like shower chairs, grab bars, or electric toothbrushes, can make hygiene easier and safer. When elders maintain self-care, relationships feel lighter and freer. Behavior 11. Giving unwanted advice on everything. Advice can be a gift, but only when it's asked for. Older adults, rich in experience, sometimes feel the need to guide every decision. You should raise your kids this way. You need to quit your job. That's not how you fix a car, let me tell you. While intentions are good, constant unsolicited advice can feel suffocating. Younger people begin to feel incapable, mistrusted, even resentful. Instead of gratitude, it breeds avoidance. Why does this habit emerge? Identity loss. Giving advice makes elders feel useful, relevant, and wise. Projection. Sometimes they're reliving their own regrets through others. Fear. Worry for loved ones comes out as control. The better approach? Ask before advising. A simple, "Would you like my opinion?" shifts the dynamic. When advice is offered as choice, not obligation, it feels empowering instead of suffocating. Behavior 12. Overdependence without gratitude. The final behavior is one of the most painful for families. When elders become overly dependent, yet fail to show gratitude. It's natural that aging brings new needs. Help with meals, rides to the doctor, assistance with bills. Families usually step in with love. But when requests pile up without appreciation, when every call is a demand rather than a thank you, resentment grows. Dependence itself isn't the issue. It's the lack of acknowledgement that pushes people away. Everyone wants to feel valued, not used. Why does this happen? Loss of independence. Pride makes it hard to say thank you because gratitude feels like admitting weakness. Entitlement mindset. Some elders unconsciously believe their children owe them. Depression. A lack of joy can overshadow even the instinct to express gratitude. The shift is small but powerful. Even a simple, "I appreciate you," can recharge caregivers emotionally. Seniors who show gratitude often find their loved ones not only willing, but eager to help. Closing message. So, there you have it. The 12 common behaviors in old age that push people away. Let's be clear. Not every elder does these things. And when they do, it's rarely out of malice. It's about fear, loneliness, habit, or simply not realizing the impact. But awareness is a first step. If you're a senior, maybe you recognize yourself in one or two of these points. That's not failure, it's opportunity. Small changes, like listening more, showing gratitude, or being flexible, can transform relationships overnight. If you're younger, remember this. Aging is hard. Show patience, but also set boundaries with love. Encourage the behaviors that bring connection, and gently steer away from those that create distance. At the end of the day, old age should not be about isolation. It should be about wisdom, laughter, and love passed from one generation to the next. By avoiding these habits, Seniors don't just hold on to relationships, they strengthen them. Because the truth is, people don't drift away from old age. They drift away from behaviors. And behaviors can change. So here's the unfiltered reality. The choice to push people away or pull them closer is still in your hands.